Hi, Miss Ann Peterson's class. Thank you so much for sending me questions. I read over them and I love them. And I just want to encourage you to keep being curious, because the more you ask questions, the more you'll understand the world and the more you'll be able to solve important problems that we have in this world. So let's get started. The first question is, what is the average starting salary for a software engineer? And it depends a lot on where you live. For example, in California, the starting salary would be $100,000, whereas in Texas, the starting salary would be $63,000. So the cost of living also changes a lot too, though, because in California, an apartment might cost closer to $3,000, and in Texas, an apartment might be $1,000. What do you like best or most about coding? So I love how coding has the impact to change the world in very transformative, huge impact ways. For some people, it's making music that helps them change the world the most, or they like cooking, or they care a lot about being a doctor, and all of those are very important things. It just depends on how you want to change the world and how you want to impact the place. That's what I think. And the next question is, what programs do you use for coding? So I use Android Studio and Eclipse a lot. It depends on what you're building and what types of coding you're doing. So that will keep changing with time, and you'll have to keep learning new things, but that's to be expected in coding or whatever you're doing. You just constantly have to be getting better at it. And then the next question is, are there different types of coding? Yes, there's like front end, which deals with the look of sites or the look of apps. And then there's back end, which is all the logic behind what goes on. It's like controlling where one thing goes or what happens when you press another thing. And there's a lot of other types of coding too. For example, some people might code the hardware on computers. So like coding hardware is very different than coding software. And there's things like artificial intelligence, like programming robots. There's just all sorts of coding out there. And then, when did you start coding? So I started coding in my second year of college, and the program I started with was a Java program, and what it did was, when it ran, it just printed out hello, world, exclamation mark. And then, what did you think about coding when you were first introduced to it? So sometimes I was really frustrated because my code just wouldn't work. Like, I tried everything, I looked over it, it still doesn't work. But also, sometimes I thought, great, this is gonna prevent me from being bored because I'm always learning something new, and it's still really interesting to find out how technology works. So there was its ups and downs, and thankfully for me, at the end of the day, it feels really rewarding, even though sometimes it's frustrating. So, do you have to learn multiple programs, or do you specialize in one or two programs? So a lot of people will start with one language. I started with Java. However, as you learn new things, you'll need to know different languages. So the languages you need to know will keep changing, and you'll learn them as you go. You'll get the hang of it. When applying for jobs, do they care what college you went to? They do care about what college you went to, but something that matters a lot more is the type of relevant work experience you have. So please do internships when you're in college. They're paid too, so they're really nice. And then also, like, work on your own side projects, like over the summer or over your breaks, work on websites or apps or anything that really interests you. And then, how many hours do I work a week? So I work 40 hours. I know some people work closer to 80 hours, but that's at a different company. For example, if you work at a startup, your hours might be longer. So it just depends a lot on what types of company you work for, but I would say the average is still probably 40 hours. And then, what college would you recommend for a job focused on coding? I would Google in top computer science colleges, and then there's a list of them. I'm biased though, and I would recommend UT Austin because the price is great and the computer science department is really top class, top notch. So, have I always wanted to be a software engineer? No. So at times I wanted to be like a chef, I wanted to be a psychologist, And then other times I wanted to be a business person. But at the end of the day, it made most sense for me to be a software engineer because it's really interesting and I get to solve problems that I think are really important. And then, does my code ever bug or glitch? Yes. So, no matter how many years you've been programming, there will always be more bugs in your code. Like, it's something to be expected, and you'll get better at solving them. You'll get faster at solving bugs you've seen before, but it's just something that's going to be there. And a lot of programmers, even if they've programmed for years, they still Google a lot of things. Like, Google is a programmer's best friend. And then, can I tell you a bit more detail about what I do at AT&T? So I'm a software engineer. I work on the data movement team. So for example, if you wanted to move data from the accounting team to the sales team, and they wanted to send information, I help send that information. So thank you so much for your questions. I really appreciate it.